will give you a significant performance boost. Significant. To the point you're not even feeling this cardio session. Welcome to Vigorous PEDs. I'm Coach Steve. Let's discuss a stack to make fasted cardio a lot more enjoyable and sustainable. And it will also be a lot more effective, so you get that extra fat loss as a bonus, but it's mostly about making it more enjoyable, because if you're anything like me, you probably hate cardio too. I think it's, even the word cardio, makes me feel a little bit nauseous, but we still have to do it. Fasted cardio is highly beneficial for fat loss and to train your cardiovascular endurance if you're anywhere over, a normal size. So when you have super physiologic amounts of muscle mass, you need to train your cardiovascular system and your lymphatic system to deal with this extra muscle mass that you have on your frame and this extra food intake and this extra caloric expenditure. So fasted cardio, highly beneficial. But it's certainly a love-hate relationship for most of the guys out there. We hate doing it for 30 minutes, 20 minutes per day. And we love the fat loss that it gives us, like 2 months, 3 months, maybe sometimes even 4 months later after we've been doing it consistently. So let's discuss a stack to make it a lot more fun. Make sure you get a list of podcasts in a YouTube playlist so you can listen to stuff while you're doing cardio. First drug on this list is Ventolin. Ventolin is an asthmatic medication and available as an inhaler or as a tablet form. Usually 100 micrograms to maybe 200 micrograms, or is highly beneficial to give you a little bit better ability to breathe. Now, I've been prescribed Ventolin in the past because I was asthmatic, but nowadays I like to take 1 or 2 puffs before fasted cardio when I, do strenuous cardio. Again, for a low intensity steady state cardio, it's probably not beneficial to take a puff or 2 of Ventolin. But if you're going medium intensity and especially doing high intensity interval training on the cardio machine, 1 or 2 puffs of Ventolin will really open up the bronchial tubes and allow you to get very deep breaths of air in and expel a significant amount of CO2, which will be, occurring when you do high intensity interval training. So Ventolin is first on this list, 1 or 2 puffs. I don't feel there's any benefit to take more than 2 puffs of Ventolin. Really, it will open up the bronchial tubes and feels like you're breathing super clean, fresh winter air, even though you're not living in a country that has fresh winter air. Because here in Thailand, the air is unfortunately not so fresh until I take a puff or 2 of Ventolin. Second on this list is GW-1516, also known as GW-15156, also known as Cardarine, also known as a terrible cancer-inducing SARM, which it's not a SARM. And, if you read a couple studies, or the one study where it was shown to induce cancer, if you come to your own conclusion, you probably understand that it didn't induce cancer because the study was performed on gene-mutated mice or rats, which are already prone to develop colon cancer. But GW-1516 was shown to perhaps progress the development of colon cancer. Again, you'll have to read that study for yourself and make up your own decision. We'll just discuss the practical applications of GW-1516, which is a peroxisome proliferator activated receptor delta agonist, PPAR delta agonist. And it works by telling the mitochondria to burn fatty acids over other energy sources. So this is highly beneficial because fatty acid oxidation doesn't produce so many metabolic byproducts and doesn't require as much oxygen as oxidizing glucose. So you get less lactic acid, less CO2 for the same amount of energy production. And this increases workout and cardio performance tremendously. It also helps to burn additional body fat, which is highly desired when you do fasted cardio, because nobody does fasted cardio for fun. Unless you're a cardio bunny, then you might do fasted cardio for fun. But again, I'm not doing it for fun, but I do try to make it as enjoyable as possible and make that 30 minutes fly by. And GW-1516 helps tremendously. Now, For the guys that never used GW-1516 and start to do research online, besides the cancer studies, you might see some anecdotal evidence is that GW-1516 worked for like 4 weeks and then it stopped working. I didn't get any fat loss afterwards. And that's because you're now carnitine deficient. Again, it makes logical sense that by speeding up fat loss, you require more carnitine in the process because carnitine helps to transport fatty acids from the cell membrane to the mitochondria for oxidation, which is now stimulated by GW-1516. So if you go on Cardarine, make sure you get your carnitine in as well. Cardarine plus carnitine, those two go hand in hand. And if you stay on top of both, your fat loss and your cardiovascular endurance will go significantly higher than it did without the carnitine or Cardarine or taking one or the other. A very good combination with GW-1516 is SR-9009, also known as Stenabol. And I don't think anybody calls it Stenabol anymore, so let's just call it SR-9009, also classified as a selective androgen receptor modulator, but it certainly is not because it activates the REV-ERB protein, which contributes to fatty acid oxidation in mitochondria as well. Now, the REV-ERB proteins are involved in several different processes. When you activate them in the liver, they reduce gluconeogenesis. So now serum glucose concentrations are slightly reduced while you're taking SR-9009, which cascades into less insulin secretion, which cascades into a higher ability for body fat storage to release into the bloodstream, which you can now oxidize in skeletal muscle because SR-9009 promotes fatty acid oxidation as well. Now, in the fat cells, it promotes the reduction of fat storage, which in this case, you're probably doing fasted cardio for fat loss and you're not in a state or not in a caloric surplus. So you generally won't experience much fat storage. And don't think for a second that SR-9009 during the off season is going to prevent fat storage, but SR-9009 might be able to prevent body fat redistribution when you're using these systemic lipolytic agents for fat loss. But again, you're not going to burn all the triglycerides and the free-form fatty acids that are in the bloodstream during your cardio session. So if SR-9009 is still metabolically active and stimulating the REV-ERB proteins in adipose tissue, it might be able to prevent redistribution of this body fat that is coming from somewhere else. So it should be beneficial to help with stubborn body fat areas. Again, fasted cardio is still key. And without doing fasted cardio, SR-9009 is not going to prevent stubborn body fat areas from disappearing in any way, shape, or form. The combination of GW-1516 and SR-9009 and carnitine will give you a significant performance boost. Significant, to the point you're not even feeling this cardio session and you notice that your exercise performance is significantly higher. So for me, now that I'm using this combination of 20 milligrams of GW-1516 and about 15 milligrams of SR-9009 before my fasted cardio session, you have to pull back a little bit because it's so easy. It's so easy. And then I notice, my heart rate is a little bit higher than I want it to be because I'm not noticing this cardio session in any way, shape, or form as I'm listening to my favorite podcast on YouTube or my favorite music, whatever I got loaded on my phone as well. So you really have to pull back sometimes because your heart rate will go a little bit higher than you might intend. And now you go over this ideal fat burning zone of, let's say, 80% of your maximum heart rate. You go to 85%. And you're no longer burning fatty acids, even though GW-1516 and SR-9009 is instructing your skeletal muscle to burn fatty acids over any other form of energy available, whether that's amino acids or glucose, from glycogen stores. There's still an ideal heart rate that you have to adhere to. So be careful. And then last on this list, and probably completely unavailable to the large majority of the people out there, but it's worth mentioning, is glucagon, which liberates fatty acids from body fat stores and liberates glucose from glycogen stores in the liver. Usually it's used in emergency cases where diabetics overdid their insulin administration and they go into severe hypoglycemia. You administer glucagon and it raises blood glucose levels by releasing glucose from the liver and releasing a little bit of adipose tissue in the form of triglycerides from body fat stores as well. And let's say you take a very low and conservative dose of 0.1 to 0.5 milligrams of glucagon pre-fasted cardio. Again, the emergency kits of Eli Lilly are 1 milligram glucagon for a single administration. So you have to space that out over several injections. I feel that 0.1 milligram of glucagon intramuscularly about 5 minutes to 10 minutes before your fasted cardio session will give you a significant stamina boost, especially when you're using the combination of GW-1516 and SR-9009 to instruct the mitochondria for fatty acid oxidation. Because again, even a low dose of glucagon will liberate a significant amount of fatty acids from adipose tissue. And you can do that intramuscularly for systemic adipose tissue release or, in your stubborn body fat areas. Glucagon is probably harder to source than glucagon-like peptide-1 receptor agonists, which work completely differently, even though the name might imply otherwise. So if you can't get glucagon emergency kits, you might be able to get a similar effect by administering 1 to 2 units of fast-acting insulin 30 minutes before the fasted cardio session intramuscularly, because hypoglycemia promotes glucagon release as well. Now, this means you'll have to suffer through hypoglycemia for maybe 10 to 20 minutes until glucagon is sufficiently elevated and promotes lipolysis from body fat stores and releases some glucose from the liver as well. And it's the glucose that releases from the liver in a process called glucogenolysis that restores hypoglycemia after you'll have to endure that for several minutes at the beginning of fasted cardio. It's the glucose from the liver that restores glucose homeostasis in the bloodstream, and now you no longer feel hypoglycemic. But again, it might take several minutes before you get out of this state, and during you're in this state of hypoglycemia, adipose tissue gets released, and now the GW-1516 and the SR-9009 combination will burn all of that off because it favors fatty acids over glucose oxidation in the mitochondria. So, even though you still get a little bit of glucose release from the liver through glycogenolysis, it shouldn't raise glucose concentrations in the bloodstream to the point to get insulin release from the pancreas naturally. So again, you have to be conservative and make sure you check your serum glucose concentrations before, during, and after incorporating a fasted insulin administration protocol. Ideally, if you can source this, 0.1 milligrams glucagon will get the job done way more effectively without going through a severe hypoglycemia at certain points during your fasted cardio session. And if you notice that your serum glucose concentrations drop below 60 milligrams per deciliter, which below 70 milligrams per deciliter is classified as hypoglycemia. But if you notice below 60 milligrams per deciliter, and this protocol is not able to sustain glucose concentrations over 60 milligrams per deciliter, it's better to discontinue cardio and have a Gatorade to bring your glucose levels back up. And again, guys, caution is highly advised because pre-cardio insulin certainly isn't for everybody. And I can tell you firsthand that it doesn't really make cardio enjoyable or easy because hypoglycemia and the amount of sweating that it induces and the duration that it takes before glucagon is secreted from the pancreas, it takes a while. It's not very enjoyable, but it's certainly very effective. So I would choose glucagon administrations over pre-fasted cardio insulin administrations. And I'm sure you guys are going to ask me in the comment section, can I take berberine? Can I take metformin? No, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So you have to look into glucagon or insulin, to get the most amount of fatty acid liberation from the body fat stores you could possibly get. And again, make sure you stay on GW-1516 and SR-9009 when you administer glucagon or insulin pre-cardio, because you still need to burn it away during your cardio session. Really hope that helps, guys. If you're looking for the most comprehensive guides to bodybuilding pharmacology, you can find those ebooks on my website at VigorousSteve.com/shop. If you're looking for personalized advice, you can find the rates to my services there as well in the services section. Follow me on Instagram at VigorousSteve. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy your next cardio session, and I'll see you in the next video.